Okay, we'll give folks just a minute or so to join us, and then we'll get started with our session. Got folks still joining us, so we'll just give it a few more seconds and we'll get started shortly.
Sounds good. So I have someone who's part of the chamber who's messaging me about the link. Can you email me the link so I can email it to them?
Okay, Brianne, I think you're on the call. If you can get that link over to Candice or Jamie, if you could send that link over to Candice, that would be great.
So I don't think it's the same link that you gave me, right?
Jamie's sending it right now.
Perfect.
No, it's a little different. So just confirm with me once you get it, and then we'll get started.
Will do.
It's actually in the, okay, did you get it?
No, not yet.
Okay, it's also, Kevin just put it in the chat as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Right.
Oh, and Jamie just put it in there as well.
Okay. Let's see. All right, sending it now. All righty.
Okay,
Yes, okay, we can get started.
great. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to do some, I guess, self-reflection as we get a better understanding about imposter syndrome and how it impacts many of us in our professional and personal lives. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. Leading us is Candice Rousseau. She's the founder of Reflect, Reset, Renew Therapy Services here in Niagara. With experience in hospital, municipal, and private practice settings, she brings both clinical expertise and a relatable approach to mental health. Candice is passionate about making mental wellness approachable and supporting sustainable personal and professional success. So the format for our session will be as follows. You can submit all of your questions throughout the presentation through the Q&A or chat function at the bottom of your screen. We'll address all of the questions at the end of the presentation, although I do believe that you're going to be asked to participate by answering a few questions yourselves throughout the presentation. So it's going to be very interactive. Okay, time for me to stop talking. I'm going to turn it over to you, Candice. Take it away.
All right. Okay, oops. Hang on a second here, guys. I'm sorry, I'm not very technologically inclined, so you're gonna have to bear with me here. All right. There we go. Can everybody see my screen?
We're
All
good.
right.
Yep.
All right, wonderful. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for that wonderful intro, Dolores. I really appreciate that. It's so nice to be here. I do have an exercise that I wanted to start with, but it seems that I won't be able to see people's hands. So we'll kind of look at it more as reflection versus participating. So before we jump in, I just want to identify that we're going to start with something simple. We're going to look at kind of when and how imposter syndrome shows up for you guys. I'm just going to list off a few things. Again, like I said, I was going to do hands up, but that's not going to happen. So just reflecting on these things. If anyone wants to do a quick share of identifying which ones stand out for them most, that would be great in the chat. So raise your hand in your reflective mind if you've ever rewrote the same email multiple times before sending it. avoided posting on social media because you didn't feel ready, re-recorded a video several times trying to get it just right. I know I've done that a couple times for sure. Undercharged for our work or our products to feel safer. Felt anxious or sick before putting yourself out there publicly, and heard praise and immediately thought, they're wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. So these things aren't about insecurity. They're not about incompetence, and it's definitely not about being behind. What you're seeing, or would have seen if we could have raised our hands, is a room full of capable people with nervous systems who care about safety. This is common to feel this way. It's definitely human to feel this way. The question isn't, why am I like this? The question is, what feels risky about being seen at this level? With that in mind, I want to be very clear about what today is about. Today's conversation is not about confidence. It's not about pushing yourself harder. It's about understanding what happens within yourselves when capable, driven people step up to growth, leadership, and visibility. My hope for you today is I want you all to understand how imposter syndrome shows up in your lives, how it protects you, and how to move forward with curiosity instead of self-criticism. Imposter syndrome doesn't show up because we're doing something wrong. It often shows up because we're doing actually the opposite. We're doing something that matters and we're doing something that's very important. Many people in leadership and entrepreneurship are very highly competent individuals who are deeply, deeply committed to their work, while also navigating uncertainty, responsibility, and visibility. Something I say often in my sessions, and sometimes I think my clients probably get sick of hearing it, is two things can be right at the same time. And that this is an instance where two things can be right at the same time. We can feel and be competent and deeply committed to our work, but also experience, like I said, the uncertainty and the nervousness around visibility. This combination can quietly activate self-doubt within us, even when we have clear evidence of success. What's required today is not confidence. It's not certainty. It's just a willingness to notice what resonates with all of you and a compassionate lens towards yourself. Growth doesn't have to be filled with pressure. It requires awareness, safety, and support. So, discussion. What I'm looking to understand is what is imposter syndrome to all of you? Are people able to participate, Dolores, or?
Yes, they
Oh,
can
okay.
raise their hands.
Awesome. Okay. So what does an imposter syndrome mean to all of you, if anyone's willing to share, just to get a better understanding of kind of where people are at with imposter syndrome and where they see imposter syndrome showing up in their lives?
Candice, I'm not sure if you're on the right screen. On the screen right now is the raise your hand. I think
Okay.
so. I think you might want to go one more. Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This is more kind of a question that's not in
Got
the
it.
slide, just more like a discussion kind of reflection opportunity. Okay. All right. Okay, so what we're going to look at is some common myths about imposter syndrome. What people typically believe imposter syndrome are usually based on myths, not actually what imposter syndrome is or what it feels like to experience it. So, some of the myths are imposter syndrome means that we're not confident enough. It's actually the contrary. It's often a nervous system response to growth, visibility, responsibility, and simply not a confidence deficit whatsoever. Myth two, once you achieve more, it goes away. The reality is, for many people, self-doubt actually increases as responsibility and visibility increase. Three, only inexperienced people feel this way. High achievers, leaders, and highly capable professionals experience imposter syndrome quite frequently. Myth four, if you were truly qualified, you wouldn't question yourself. Self-reflection and doubt can coexist with deep competence. As I said earlier, two things can coexist at the same time. If people praise you, that should fix it. External validation does not override internal safety. And six, you should push through it. Sustainable growth happens when safety expands alongside of responsibility, not when we increase pressure. Now that we know what that is, now that we know what it isn't, let's explore what it actually is. What is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is the persistent feeling of feeling like you're a fraud, even when there's clear evidence of success and accomplishments. It's the quiet voice that says you're not as capable as others think you are. It often looks like doubting yourself and your skills, minimizing your success, believing your success is luck rather than effort. Most people experience fear that it's only a matter of time before people find out that I have no clue what I'm doing. Ongoing self-doubt, even after positive feedback, and difficulty fully accepting validation from others. Now, I want to pause here because this isn't just a concept, it's something that I've lived as well. So I often like to share my story with imposter syndrome just to kind of normalize it and have see that, that we all experience it. Even when we're in business and we're successful and we have evidence to prove it, we all feel it. So my story actually, I've had imposter syndrome forever, to be honest. However, the recognition that it was imposter syndrome and actually really, really, truly feeling the really big impact of it came about 10 months ago. I own a group practice, and what that means is that there's other therapists, independent contractors that work here. So when I'm hiring someone, I have to go through the hiring process the same way you would with an employee, just to make sure that someone is a good fit in terms of values, kind of approach to practice, things like that. So I remember when I posted my first job posting and I was so excited. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm growing. This is awesome. This is amazing. How exciting. Oh my goodness. And then I posted the job posting and I had an immediate turnaround. And that immediate turnaround turned into sadness, anxiety. I had a little bit of depression, to be honest. I was nervous. I was sick to my stomach and I couldn't figure out why because hiring someone was a good thing. To be honest, vulnerability here. I took it to my therapist, and I said, "What the heck is going on? Why am I feeling this? This should be exciting. Like, there's something actually wrong with me." And what we discovered was the nervousness around being seen, being exposed, people being able to see in the public that I was hiring someone and that my practice was growing, and that scared me quite a bit. Then, that kind of settled for me. And then a few months later, I connected with someone that I'm currently working with in my practice who's a very, very, very accomplished business owner. And they're trying a new venture coming out very soon over the next few months. And they said, oh my gosh, I feel imposter syndrome. Like, I don't think I can do it. And that's when it clicked for me that imposter syndrome impacts all of us, even if we're successful, even if we're nervous, even if we look confident on the outside. Okay, why does this topic matter? This topic matters because self-doubt doesn't just stay in our heads. It spills into how we lead, the risks we take, the boundaries we set, and the opportunities we go after. When we don't name it, it quietly starts making decisions for us, from usually a place of self-doubt instead of clarity. But when we talk about it, something shifts. The shame softens. We build awareness instead of thinking, what's wrong with me? We start to realize, oh, something protective is happening. And that shift is what makes sustainable growth possible. When imposter syndrome goes left unexamined, it can influence the decisions and behaviors that we engage in. It can shape the way we speak to others in a public space. It affects how visible we allow ourselves to be, whether that be at networking events such as the Chamber of Commerce or through social media, through conversations with others. It influences our pricing. We'll keep our prices low just to keep our customers happy, to keep our customers from what we perceive as scaring them away if we raise our prices, because heaven forbid our services or products be worth the price that we're charging. Delay opportunities for growth and create pressures for ourselves instead of engaging in clarity. This matters because the goal isn't just success. Of course, it's success, but ultimately it's sustainability. Leadership that requires self-abandonment, chronic stress, or constant self-doubt is not sustainable long-term, and that's the recipe for burnout. Understanding imposter syndrome allows us to move forward in a way that supports our nervous system safely, that protects our energy, and aligns with growth and well-being instead of burnout. So the next question becomes, what's actually happening underneath all of this? Why does it show up so strongly when we're growing? Well, let's look at biology and explore the nervous system and how this impacts imposter syndrome. Our nervous system's primary job isn't confidence, it's to protect us. At all times, it's scanning our environment through our five senses, asking, am I safe right now? Is there anything around me that I need to be worried about to keep myself safe? Based on the answer to that question, our minds, our brains, our bodies all work together to shape how we think, feel, and behave, which we're very often unaware of. It lives in our subconscious mind. Most of those thoughts, 93 to 95% of those thoughts live in our conscious mind, and only 3 to 7% live in our conscious mind. When leadership, visibility, or growth feels unfamiliar, our nervous system interprets that as a threat, even when growth is our goal. When threat is perceived by our nervous system and by our brain, self-doubt increases, perfectionism or avoidance show up, and rest can feel uncomfortable. Sometimes we have the urge to shrink, to prove ourselves, or to control our environment and our situation. These aren't personal flaws, these are automatic nervous system responses. And that automatic protection shows up in predictable patterns. You'll probably recognize yourself in at least one of these patterns of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Many people will appear like they're capable, productive, responsible, and confident. And that is because imposter syndrome doesn't always look like fear. It often shows up in our behavior. When fight is in control, we're working longer hours. We may be defensive with feedback. We may over-prepare, and we will engage in self-criticism. When flight takes over, we may avoid visibility. We may focus on admin work and behind-the-scenes work instead of strategic outward work. We may ghost networking events or outreaching opportunities. Freeze is when we engage in analysis paralysis, feeling numb or disconnected, waiting for perfect clarity. Fawn is when we people please, over apologize, we avoid saying no, we avoid raising our prices to keep our customers happy. These are all learned survival responses. So if the nervous system is protecting us, we have to ask, what is it trying to protect us from? What actually feels, when growth activates our core wounds, what actually feels risky about growth, visibility, and entrepreneurship, most of the time is not actually the tasks that we engage in itself. It's what the growth touches emotionally within us. Growth in leadership doesn't just challenge our skills or competence, it activates deeper emotional wounds, ones that are automatic, protective, and not conscious choices or personal flaws. It can act deeper wounds such as worth. Am I enough? Belonging. Do I belong here? Do I have a right to be here? Am I smart enough to be here? Safety. What if this all falls apart? What if all my clients disappear? What if I don't have a job? How will I pay my bills? Deserving. Do I deserve this? Do I deserve to be here? Do I deserve this success? Do I deserve this attention? As visibility expands, our inner critic can get louder and may begin to ask questions like, am I allowed to be here? Will I get judged more harshly now that I'm visible? Will people think I'm too much or too loud? Can I trust people to work for me? Imposter syndrome often emerges because growth is touching protective wounds shaped by our experiences over our lifespan, primarily within childhood when our belief systems are curated. Therefore, it's not a mindset issue as many people actually believe. And when those deeper places get activated, the nervous system tries to simplify things so it can feel safe again. And this is where the nervous system, again, tries to simplify things by creating rules for us. So they're not conscious rules, they're protective rules that are, again, operating from that 93 to 95% in our unconscious mind. And these rules could potentially sound like worth may equate to performance. If I perform well, I'm worthy. If I struggle, then I'm not. Value may equal output, which means that my value comes from what I produce, not who I actually am as a person. Safety may equate to approval. As long as people approve of me, then I will be safe. As long as I'm liked and everyone likes me, I will remain safe. And if those become the internal operating system from which we operate, then of course leadership and business ownership feels very heavy and very scary. Because if worth equals performance, then mistakes feel dangerous. If value equals output, then rest may feel threatening. If safety equals approval, then visibility may feel risky. Because now success isn't just success, it's actually survival. And that's when imposter syndrome can get louder for us. Okay, reflection question. So I've listed out several of the different behaviors. Of course, it's not all of them, but several of the different behaviors that we will engage in when fear and overwhelm and responsibility and visibility show up for us. Uh, is anyone noticing any of the behaviors in here that they engage in when they find that they're kind of leveling up, growing their business, or opening their business? Share. Okay, one that I commonly hear in my work is avoiding rest. That is a very, very common one I hear. A lot of people will just kind of keep going and going and going and will avoid rest because people feel like a lot of people feel that when they're resting, then they're not being productive. And if they're not being productive, then that can activate nervous system responses and cause people to be really hard on themselves and engage in a lot of critical thinking and a lot of judgment on themselves for what they're doing or not doing. Another one that I notice a lot is procrastination, that I hear of a lot is procrastinating, raising your prices, procrastinating, a new product or a new service, and not allowing other people to see it as quickly as it should be shared. And overworking. This is another one, which kind of in a sense goes along with avoiding rest. So we'll overwork. We'll put in 12, 15 hours of work, maybe work 6 days a week, 7 days a week. There's so much to do in building a business. There's social media sharing, there's networking events, there's, meeting people and, the business end of things like the finances and all those things. So we just continue to work and work and work some more. Why do entrepreneurs feel this more? Because the conditions and the role that we play. Entrepreneurship includes constant uncertainty. We never know what's coming. There's a high level of responsibility. For those of us who are doing it on our own, there's a lot of tasks that need to be done day to day. There's few clear standards and little reassurance that we're doing it right. Unlike structured environments where no one is tracking our progress, our outcomes are unpredictable, and the burden of mistakes sit with you. You can't put it back on an employer. You are it. You're the one. Achievement doesn't always feel like safety. This creates tension between growth, leadership stability, and safety, belonging, and approval. Increased visibility often brings greater scrutiny, more self-monitoring, editing or softening or to manage others, the perception of others. Over time, that can create internal tension, chronic self-doubt, ongoing pressure despite competence, and again, self-criticism, that ugly inner voice that constantly lives in our head. And when this all runs in the background long enough, it stops being just a feeling, and there's a cost, an expensive cost to our business, or there can be. Oops, sorry, guys. So these consequences are when self-doubt influences our decisions. We may quietly limit growth, again, postpone price increases, delay opportunities that are already available. By delaying launches or new offers, we may feel we need to wait until we feel more confident or more prepared. It can impact our boundaries. We may avoid saying no to people. We may have difficulty with delegation, just such a difficult time releasing some of our tasks, thinking no one is going to care about my business as much as I do, or I can't trust other people are going to make the right decisions or do the right things or get things done on time. Fear of losing clients and approval and connection. Limited time for rest and recovery. There's also mental and emotional barriers as well. It can lead to resentment, significant fatigue, a sense of being trapped by our own success, exhaustion and burnout, slowed progress or forced breaks, difficulty sustaining our own growth. So this isn't just about how we feel inside. This isn't just how about we feel inside. This is why understanding it matters, why it's so important, not to create pressure, but to create awareness. Because once we see our patterns, we can start choosing differently. So now that we understand our patterns somewhat, I want to give you an experience that's something that your nervous system can actually feel. Okay, so if everyone feels comfortable, if you don't mind just closing your eyes, putting your feet on the ground, Typically, this practice that I'm going to share with you today is something that you would do before you go to bed, once you wake up in the morning, after meditation, breath work, or yoga. Usually, I would recommend doing it for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes that you can spare at those times in the morning or before bed, or again after yoga. This is when our brain is the most susceptible to suggestibility, most susceptible to growth and learning. Our nervous system becomes less defensive and our mind becomes more open. Our imagination becomes stronger, and we can feel things within our bodies in these times because our brain kind of relaxes and settles, allowing the felt senses in the body to come through more readily. Visualization and daydreaming can be very, very powerful. The inner critic is quieter. It quiets the inner critic, and the body, like I said, is open to exploring new experiences of safety and self-trust. Before we start, this isn't about imagining the perfect vision of yourself. It's not about becoming someone totally different. It's about connecting with a future version of who feels a little steadier, a little calmer, and a little bit more self-trusting. Think about yourself in 6 months to a year from now. What feels different? How do you handle stress? How do you make decisions? How do you talk about your work? What boundaries feels easier to hold? How does your body feel on an average day? If you can't picture it clearly, that's okay. Just choose one that feels right, that resonates with you. Maybe to experience more calm, more peace, to be more clear, more confident, maybe more grounded. We're not trying to force anything. We're just trying to give your nervous system a chance to experience what it feels like to be that best version of yourself, even if it's only for a few minutes. Okay. So, with your eyes closed, soften your gaze, relax your shoulders, take a few slow, deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth to allow your body to settle. Let your mind drift instead of trying to focus. This isn't about thinking, it's about a feeling. If thoughts come up, let them pass as though they're on a cloud that are just slowly drifting by. Let your vision of who you want to become sink into your mind. Now gently ask yourself, who is this version of me at their core? How do they move through their life? What does their body or nervous system feel like day to day? Allow images, sensations, and emotions to rise naturally. Now take it a step further. Don't observe that version of you, step into them. Imagine waking up as this version of yourself, moving through a regular day, showing up, speaking, resting, and deciding from this place. What I want you to notice is, how does your body feel from the inside? Is there more steadiness in your chest or belly? Is your breath slower or deeper? How do you carry yourself physically? Allow your body to begin mirroring that experience. Because imposter feelings often come from a fear of being seen, imagine yourself being visible in work, relationships, leadership without bracing. What does it feel like to be competent without over-explaining, to receive praise without deflecting, to take space without apology? Let your nervous system experience what it feels like to be seen and safe all at the same time. Let it land. You don't need affirmations. You don't need to lock anything in. Simply let your body absorb the experience. This is how the brain learns, through repetition, emotion, imagery, and a felt sense, especially in our most receptive state. Take one slow, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and gently return. The point of that exercise is not to fake it till you'll make it. It's to show your system that what safe expansion can potentially feel like. The reframe. Imposter syndrome isn't a sign that you're behind. Your identity is expanding and stepping into the unknown. It's information. It's a signal that growth is happening or about to happen. The goal isn't to eliminate doubt. It's to just build tolerance for being seen, allow for mistakes without criticizing yourself and beating yourself up, continue showing up without shrinking. And this is where things get hopeful, because safety is not a personality trait. It's a skill your nervous system can absolutely learn. When we teach our nervous system to feel safe in growth, this is where the shift happens. When we can start teaching our nervous system that growth is not dangerous, that visibility is not the same as being rejected, that responsibility doesn't mean everything will collapse around us, you start to think more clearly. You're not hijacked by self-doubt and self-criticism. You start to tolerate uncertainty. You don't need everything guaranteed before you take the next step in your business, and your creativity will flourish. It's not because we have forced confidence, it's because your system is going to learn that expansion can feel safe. Nerve-wracking, I'll bet, but it can feel safe. Leadership is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to stay present within our growth without abandoning ourselves emotionally. Over time, the hope is that once what felt threatening becomes familiar, confidence develops through lived experiences and not pressure. It's learning that we can feel exposed, uncertain, stretched, and ultimately still be okay. And that's the kind of leadership that changes everything. I've provided the chamber with a workbook that walks through everything that we covered here today and then some. It includes exercises, tools, and practical techniques that you can continue using to build nervous system capacity and work through imposter syndrome in a sustainable way at your own pace. So this doesn't just stay in the room. You'll have something tangible to come back to and keep practicing with it. All right, so I have some reflection questions here. I'm not sure if anyone's up for sharing. If not, that's okay. If anyone has any questions, we can look at those as well. What parts of yourself have you been asking to wait until you feel more ready, qualified, or confident? Or where am I pulling back or playing small right now? And what feels risky about being more visible there? Is anyone up for sharing? Okay. Is there any questions in the chat?
I think someone is asking to repeat that question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. What parts of yourself have you been asking to wait until you feel more ready, qualified, or confident? And where are you pulling back or playing small right now? And what feels risky about being more visible there? Okay, that's okay that no one wants to share. It is a pretty vulnerable topic, so I can completely
I,
appreciate why sharing
I
in a group
think,
of people that you may not know very well might feel a little bit risky and a little uncomfortable. I can totally appreciate that.
Candice, we do have a couple in the
Oh,
chat.
sweet. Okay,
I'm
awesome.
not sure if you can see them. If not, I can read them for you.
And yeah.
Okay, the first one says, pulling back to speak your mind when you know the answer, but you're doubting yourself.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah,
Yeah. Another one says, pulling back on taking new work in fear of not being good enough to challenge myself with something different.
absolutely.
Where else can we share oh, okay. Yeah, just the chat. Also participating at tables that you've been invited to. Someone sees the value in you being there, but once you get there, you look around at the others and shrink yourself in order to protect yourself. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, those are some really good examples of how it shows up in real life and how it can kind of those feelings that we're experiencing, those uncomfortable feelings and those belief systems that are operating from the unconscious mind. It really highlights how those things kind of come forward in our behavior and the nervousness associated again with kind of stepping up, speaking up. We were invited to be there for a reason. It's because we had some sort of value to add to the conversation, to the situation, perhaps our products or our services we're able to add to the services of others or collaboration, right? But if we stay small or we shrink, these opportunities might pass us by and we can maybe stop ourselves from moving our business forward and growing and really allowing ourselves to be seen and moving more and more towards the goals that we set for ourselves as they relate to success.
There's another one, pulling back when someone else has done a similar project and you don't think you can do it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you start to doubt yourself, right? Because you don't have perhaps the same information or the same kind of presentation as the other person. You start to look at their presentation and think to yourself, oh, well, my presentation doesn't look like that. And oh, I didn't include that in there, or I didn't even think of that concept or that kind of theory or explanation or anything like that. And then you start to doubt your own work because you think, well, they must know better than I do. But the reality of it is, the chances are, I'm willing to bet that the other person is probably looking at your presentation and feeling the exact same way.
Hmm. Here's another one. What about when you're sitting in a room full of people who have extensive experience and you want to say your opinion, but you're worried they know the answer already and don't want to waste their time? Yeah, I think we've all been in that one.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. But you know what? That's a really powerful place to be when you're in a room full of people having a discussion and brainstorming and talking about things because even if you're new or not, sometimes being new has its benefits as well of kind of a fresh perspective or just starting out again, reminding people who have been in the field or have been doing that work for a long period of time, kind of what it feels like to start out or kind of have a reminder of kind of taking things back to the basics and offering solutions or explanations or suggestions that might be something that they may have overlooked because of their years of experience, right? Whether we're new to business or we've been in business for a long period of time, from personal opinion, of course, I think we all have something valuable to share because not only do we have our professional experience, but we also have our personal experience. Ultimately, we're consumers of different services and users of different products. So even just that lived experience is enough to contribute to some of those conversations.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess at this point, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to ask those questions. This has been such a great presentation, Candice. I think it's remarkable that we are at a time where you can take an hour out of your day to talk about a topic like this for some self-reflection, for just some consideration for your own, well-being and mental health. I don't think that, even 10 years ago, we would be taking time to have these kinds of conversations. And I think we've come such a long way, and this is such a great opportunity for us to just, share and to hear. A lot of the things that you were saying um, just really resonated with me because we've all been in a lot of those situations, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of us, I mean, I know myself included, again, a vulnerability here when we attend some of the meetings, right? The networking events and things like that, and going into an environment where we don't know anybody and, we're nervous and we're feeling like, oh, I just kind of want to just kind of slink in there and kind of go unnoticed and not talk to anybody. It's a common feeling that we feel. And and I can't reiterate it enough that with imposter syndrome, it's typically felt by people who are leveling up. It's typically felt by people who are taking the risk. They're kind of dipping their toe into the water and putting themselves out there. The
Yeah,
vast majority of the time, that's when imposter syndrome shows up. It's not because you're not doing anything, it's because you're actually doing something and putting
right.
yourself out there.
Right, makes sense. We've got some comments and some questions.
Sure.
So Kevin, this was excellent. Really appreciate the opportunity to hear about it. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Katie, I've heard before that you never want to be the smartest in the room. If you are, it's time to get into another room. That's
Whoa.
that's great insight. I love that,
Yeah.
Katie.
Yeah.
Deanna, you've shared a very insightful perspective on imposter syndrome. What's one thing we can take away that we can all work on? Is it to keep trying and putting ourselves in these situations where we're growing, to feel uncomfortable and push through and tell your nervous system that you're going to be okay?
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on who the person is, but I think, if I were to generalize it, I think the most important thing is kind of what I had just said, that we feel imposter syndrome because we're doing something, not because we're doing nothing. And to learn to have a conversation with your kind of inner critic, in a way that is kind of more reflective of how you would speak to a friend or to a family member, right? If you think about, going into a networking event and you think, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, no one's going to be interested in what I have to say. No one's going to care what I have to say. Like, no one's going to care that I'm there. Kind of soften that perspective and say, no, I have a right to be here. I have something to offer. There is something that I can add to the conversation and share with people, and really just try and kind of shift your mindset and talk more gentler to yourself. But imagine again what you would say to a friend. So if a friend went to you and said, "Oh my gosh, I have to go to this networking thing. I'm so nervous. I shouldn't even go. Like I have nothing to say." We definitely wouldn't say to a friend, "Oh yeah, you shouldn't go. Like you don't deserve to be there. Like you're kind of stupid. Like you probably have nothing to add to the conversation, and there's no point in you even going because like you have nothing to offer." We would never imagine saying that to our friend, but we would not even think twice to engage in that type of kind of self talk and that inner talk in our minds. So again, kind of shifting the way we think about things and talking to ourselves the way we would talk to someone that we love and care about.
Yeah, yeah. A couple more comments, questions. Kevin didn't realize that this was imposter syndrome, and I felt that way too. A lot of these things resonated. I didn't know that that's what it was called. It's actually good to give it a name, right? To
Mhm.
recognize it for what it is. So I appreciate that. From Len, do you have any tips or techniques on how to manage someone who's filled with self-doubt?
It's tough because, again, kind of going back to the myths, right, is that we can validate people kind of up and down all day long. But the reality of it is, until we believe it ourselves, we can't really fully grasp it. We can't really fully kind of take it on and step into that. So again, doing that work kind of internally, and of course I'm biased, I'm a therapist, of course, but doing that work internally and understanding kind of what are some of the behaviors that I engage in, and what are some of the doubts that I have about myself, and some of the belief systems that I carry every single day about myself, for example, about worth, kind of what is why don't I feel like I'm worth it? What has happened throughout my lifetime to tell me that I'm not worth it? And really identify what that is and start working towards kind of that fixing, or not fixing, sorry, that's a bad word, kind of repairing and healing that belief system around your worth. Because once you have the belief system once you shift that belief system from I'm not worth it to I am worth it, then things become a lot more easier because now you're moving forward with a frame of mind, a mindset that is filled with confidence and value, and that you have something to share. So it's more truly more of that inner, deeper work that we have to do for ourselves that really allows us to show up in a way where we can kind of have faith and confidence that we're deserving of being there.
Hmm. I don't know. I guess it's along the same lines, but I'm just wondering, is there anything that we can do in our workplaces, I guess, to help our colleagues, team members, employees achieve like sustainable confidence? Like, are there resources or things that we can be implementing, or is it, the way that we converse with someone? Like, are, I guess it's along the same lines, but I'm just wondering, like, how do we, I know it has to come from within, and
Mhm.
you have to overcome it from within, but are there things that we can do to help others or support others in overcoming that as well?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that, vulnerability goes a long way,
Mm,
right? Sharing kind of what you're experiencing, sharing what you're going through, right? If we think back to kind of the example that I gave when I was working with someone in my, as a client, and they had said that they suffered from imposter syndrome, that for me was a huge aha moment of, oh wow, I'm not alone, right? There's vulnerability. Other people feel this despite projecting kind of this confidence and huge self-worth, right? And I think when we start to get vulnerable and share kind of what we're experiencing, other people will share it as well. And there is something to be said about not feeling alone in kind of feeling nervous about presenting here today, right? Of feeling scared and nervous or anxious, or sick to your stomach about posting a job, right? So many
mhm.
people feel imposter syndrome every single day. And even though it might not kind of externally kind of seem like there is a challenge or a struggle or anything, some thoughts that might not be kind, that are happening inside their minds, they still could be suffering from imposter syndrome as well. And I think the more people recognize it, it's really actually common and it's like a human kind of response to leveling up. I think people, again, personal opinion, I think that people will start to recognize that, they're not alone and that they're not being judged as critically and that they're not, the only one in the room that is nervous to present or to share or to show up at these networking events, for example.
Yeah, and I think once you get through it, like I'm just thinking, someone had said in the chat, being invited to a round table and thinking, oh my gosh, like what can I possibly share? I'm thinking about experiences that I've had where I've been asked to sit on a panel and share my expertise on something, and going into it, it's like, but I don't have any expertise in this area.
Mhm.
And you go and you do your thing, and then afterwards people come over and ask you questions and want to pick your brain, and it's such a good feeling because going into it there is that fear and that self-doubt, and you get through it. Sometimes it's better than others, but you get through it, and at the end of it you feel like you've achieved something. You feel it builds the confidence every time you do it because you do get through it, if
Yeah.
that
And
makes
like
sense.
I said earlier about the nervous system exposure, right? The more we expose our nervous system to things that scare us or things that we have doubt about, the more our nervous system, although uncomfortable, of course, I don't want to pretend, that it's not uncomfortable because it certainly is. But the more our nervous system learns that, yes, this is an uncomfortable situation versus this is my safety that's at risk. The more we can expose ourselves, the more we can put ourselves in those situations that make us nervous and scare us, and then come out the other end, again, I'll bet uncomfortable but kind of out the other side safely. We weren't in actual any physical danger or not, we weren't not safe. Then our nervous system starts to learn, oh, wow, that wasn't so bad. It was uncomfortable, but oh, it wasn't so bad. So the more we expose ourselves, the more we can kind of grow and learn from our experiences.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. I want is does anybody else have any other questions or comments? We'll give you a few seconds to put them in the chat if anyone does. There we go. Deanna, this was excellent. Thank you. Great.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was, like I said, this is a conversation that I'm just so happy that we're taking the time to have these types of conversations because they're so helpful for all of us, right? Just to talk about these things and to better understand what we're feeling and to be able to give it a name. That's,
Absolutely.
that's
When we can name
wonderful.
something, we know that we know what it is and we know where to start the work, right?
We sure do.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much, Candice. This was a
You're
really
welcome. Thank
incredibly
you.
informative, not quite an hour. So we're actually giving folks a little bit of time back, which is a bonus. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Just want to share that our next session will take place on March 24th. We'll be learning about co-op and apprenticeship programs available right here in Niagara. You'll receive the session details in your What's Up Wednesday email, so look for that. Thanks again for joining us and have yourselves a great afternoon. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye.